A very good evening to you all and welcome to News Tonight this Wednesday, the 22nd day of November 2017. My name is Edward Rukidi Kijanangoma. And we will get started straight away. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who is also the Commander-in-Chief of the Uganda Armed Forces, has said that an army officer without a good political orientation is a disservice to society. Now addressing over 250 officer cadets from Uganda People's Defence Forces and the Somali Army who are currently undergoing a one-year officer cadet course at Kabamba Military Academy, President Museveni said an African army officer without a clear political background cannot be of good service to the continent. We have more on that in this report.
So you need to study the evolution of society. Having studied the evolution of man, then you study the evolution of society now. It also evolved, starting with primitive communalism, hunters and gatherers, living by hunting.
Addressing over 250 officer cadets from the Uganda People's Defence Forces and the Somali Army who are currently undergoing a one-year officer cadet course at Kabamba Military Academy in Mubende district, President Museveni said that an African army officer without a clear political background about the evolution of humanity, society and contemporary African history can't be of good service to the continent.
But it's important to study all the other, because if you don't study the evolution of man, you don't study the evolution of society, you will not easily grasp the importance of even contemporary history. Especially if you are an officer. An officer is a priest, should know much more than the ordinary soldiers. So when it comes to contemporary history,
the President reminded the cadet officer trainees that to be a good African army officer, one has to know the place Africa occupies in the global politics and why the continent, which is the origin of mankind, the first to adopt modern civilization, the origin of all religions and is well endowed with natural resources, sits below all the continents today.
Africans have now developed an inferiority complex. They don't, they don't trust, they don't think they are valuable. That's why you find African women trying to be Indians. Somebody breaches herself. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she says, I'm looking terrible. God did not create me properly. And yet, for instance, among the Banyankore, the concept of beauty was the blacker a woman was, the more beautiful she was.
The President observed that for the African continent to regain its position in the world, it needs to politically and economically integrate and remove the colonial boundaries to be able to handle the challenges the continent faces collectively.
The original reason why we were colonized was because we were politically fragmented, we were scattered. Now, if we want to ensure that we are never colonized again, one of the things we must do is to end political fragmentation. That's why you hear us talking of East African Federation. If East Africa was together, we would be a stronger country, and we could guarantee our independence, our freedom against any threat. Now Uganda, yes, Uganda is strong, but it's not as strong as if we were together with the rest of East Africa.
He emphasized the need for the African continent to invest heavily in science and technology, noting that the sector is the driver of modern social change in the world. State Minister for ICT, Honorable Ada Arios Nantawa, and the Chief of Defense Forces, General David Muhoozi, attended the lecture. UBC TV, Harriet Nambi.
President Museveni giving some wise counsel there to those officer cadets. Meanwhile, President Yoweri Museveni says a government select committee is working on harmonizing salaries of all public servants in the country. Of course, this comes on the heels of numerous strikes by public servants over low pay. But the president says the current wage bill, which stands at 400 billion Ugandan shillings, will be increased to meet the new demands. Now, the president made the remarks at a pass-out ceremony of 321 UPDF officers who have completed a number of courses in armored warfare in Mubende district.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni says government is in advanced stages of harmonizing salaries of all government employees, including those in the armed forces. The president was reacting to the recent spate of strikes by public servants, most recently that of the doctors under the Uganda Medical Association, which is in its third week. Museveni says with the excellent performance of the economy, issues to do with salaries will be worked on.
And since the economy is improving, you are going to see some improvement also. First of all, in the wage bill, we want to make sure to reorganize the wage bill of the country, which is 4,000 billion shillings, so that the soldiers, the constables, the police constables, the primary school teachers, the health workers get better pay, slightly better pay.
The president said this during the pass-out ceremony of 321 UPDF officers who have completed a number of courses in armored warfare. He reiterated the need to build a strong professional army for Uganda, and he said this has been high on the agenda of the national resistance movement for the last 50 years.
Our target was to build a good army for Uganda. And a good army means recruiting the good people who are reasonably educated, and then training them well.
On tackling the housing challenge in the army, President Museveni said that he had already instructed the Army Engineering Brigade to undertake all the army housing needs instead of relying on contractors who tend to be expensive.
That's why I have said no. Let the Engineering Brigade lead the building so that we don't have to, we need to fight poverty among private people. But we need to build the army infrastructure first. We shall help the private people later when we are rich. But for now, our task is not to enrich private contractors, but to build houses for ourselves.
The Chief of Defense Forces, General David Muhoozi, commended President Museveni for his insistence on training in the UPDF in line with the professionalization agenda.
It inculcates repeatedly our purpose and our mission, which I think you had those through political education. It reinforces our discipline in general terms. It also reinforces our discipline at war because we train for war. It helps to deepen our understanding of tactics and the use of ground, of terrain. Very, very important.
The commandant of the Armored Warfare Training School at Karama, Brigadier Francis Chemo, reported that the trainees had been trained by experienced Ugandan and Russian instructors, adding that the skills acquired match international standards. He requested for increased funding and equipping the institute to enable it to effectively carry out the necessary trainings. Samuel Senono, UBC News.
Now let's shift our attention to the health sector, where the National Medical Stores is set to construct an ultra-modern national warehouse for essential medicines and health supplies. The groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of the warehouse at Kajansi, the Kampala suburb, was performed by the Prime Minister, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda. This report, courtesy of the Prime Minister's press unit.
It's my great pleasure to do the groundbreaking for this ultra-modern warehouse for the National Medical Stores.
The construction of this ultra-modern warehouse at Kajansi is funded by Global Fund, which has so far availed $7.6 million to kickstart the project. The Gavi Fund has also committed $1.5 million to construct drive-in cold rooms that are part of this warehouse.
Let me take this opportunity to join my colleagues who have paid tribute and deep appreciation to the work that National Medical Stores, both leadership and management and lead staff, have been doing to promote the well-being and health care of the people of Uganda. The Global Fund, Gavi, have been reliable partners in our crusade to improve the health of our people. Please keep it up. The fact that we have helped Uganda have an ultra-modern facility, to have more storage capacity, to have a modern warehouse, to ensure that drugs are available and therefore drug stockouts are something of the past, again shows that good partnership can really produce wonderful results. And this modern warehouse is going to remain a living memento of excellent partnership between the Uganda government and the development partners that we have today.
He pledged government's commitment to work with development partners and other funding agencies to ensure that all funds needed to complete the project are made available on time. The Minister of State for Primary Health Care, Sarah Opendi, noted that the construction of the warehouse was testimony that government enterprises can be run efficiently and profitably.
If you have the right people in the right places and you only provide your political leadership, everything else moves smoothly. And this is what is happening in the National Medical Stores.
The National Medical Stores Board Chairman, Dr. Philip Yaruhanga, said they were working closely with the Health Ministry to implement a 5-year strategic plan. It is meant to improve health service delivery at the grassroots.
And I want to assure you that over the last 2-3 years, all the activities outlined by the General Manager have been possible because of this critical support. We are grateful to our members of Parliament, Chairperson of the Committee of Health of Felicia, and other committees of Parliament who have extensively interacted with National Medical Stores.
A call was made to the contractors to accelerate construction works to fit within the Global Fund money disbursement schedule. The warehouse is expected to be completed by June 2019. This story was compiled by Mgera Michael for UBC News.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, has said the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, Exim Bank Regional Conclave on India, East Africa that was held in Kampala this week is the beginning of a new era in terms of increased trade and investment between India and East Africa. The Premier made the remarks while closing the 2-day CII Exim Bank Regional Conclave on India, East Africa, which was opened by President Yoweri Museveni on Monday at Munyonyi Resort.
This conclave has been a practical follow-up of the commitment that was reached during the CII Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Project Partnership that took place in New Delhi in March 2017. Prime Minister Dr. Rugunda said all the issues that have been identified requiring attention, such as bureaucracy and red tape, question of standards and accurate data, as well as risk mitigation, must be promptly addressed to ensure that all bottlenecks are cleared to promote business and investments between India and East Africa.
With enormous political support from both India and Uganda and East Africa, I believe that the opportunities, I believe that the chances of making progress are so immense. In fact, in my view, this period gives us one major challenge: to accelerate what those who went before us have been able to do. And I believe in this route of acceleration, we are going to see amazing investments, trade, and all forms of opportunities created by this powerful group that is gathered in this room.
Dr. Rugunda emphasized the importance of regional projects, adding that they enjoy total support by all regional countries.
The Secretary for Commerce made another major point, in my view. The bureaucracy, red tape, and the amount of time it takes to get projects starting. I always get amazed. If 20, 30, 40, 50, 68 years ago, our forefathers and our foremothers, very much so, were able to do these great things and do so in a reasonably short time. One expects that modernity should be able to empower us to do things much faster and much better.
He thanked the Confederation of India, Industry and Exim Bank for their input to the conclave, as well as the delegates including private sector representatives, business leaders and government officials. The Secretary of Commerce, Government of India, Rita Toti, said India and East Africa must work together as equals for mutual economic benefit. She said all the bottlenecks that hinder lucrative trade must be cleared.
And I think this cooperation between the customs authorities of our countries is important. We have signed memorandum of understanding with many countries. We share the data. We have a trade agreement, sir, with Korea, and we exchange the data formally on a regular basis. And now there is no difference between the export and import data of Korea and India. It's exactly the same number.
Some of the conclave resolutions include mutual enthusiasm for leveraging Indian opportunities in East Africa and East African opportunities in India, especially in the fields of infrastructure, agro-processing, ICT, skills development, health, and education. This report was compiled by Apollo Mungenda for UBC News.
Now, news just in. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has committed to have concerns of taxi operators within Kampala metropolitan area handled. The president made the impromptu address to demonstrating taxi drivers after they caused a sudden stop of the president's convoy. Now, taxi operators are contending against monthly payment of road user taxes that have been levied by Kampala Capital City Authority. Onyango Jackson reports.
Demonstrating taxi drivers in Kampala early Wednesday blocked President Yoweri Museveni's convoy, causing him to make a rare impromptu address. Normally, venues of such events that the president is planned to grace will have security sweepers clear and secure the premises until the president has left the scene. But this wasn't the case. Taxi operators stood and others knelt in the middle of the road after cutting off 2 lead road sweepers from main convoy, causing the president to stop. The president was heading to Sironko in Bugisu sub-region to visit landslide-affected areas by the time his smooth journey was interrupted. In an address to the people, he committed to have the concerns of the taxi operators handled. Taxi operators in Kampala involved in running battles with Kampala Capital City Authority revenue collectors in contention against payment of road tax user fees. The underlying argument is that the monthly taxes were waived off in favor of annual collection.
Repetition are they giving us in Kampala Central? So I'm totally not with that kind of situation. I condemn it.
Several of the taxi operators have been arrested. For the moment, business in the Central Business District has returned to normal. Onyango Jackson and Gloria Gutabinji reporting.
One of those rare ambushes on the president there by taxi operators. Now let's move to Zimbabwe and look at what is happening there. And of course, nearly 4 decades after he liberated his country from colonialism, Robert Mugabe now could earn the title of immediate former president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. Now this follows his resignation from the presidency on Tuesday evening, marking the end of his position as Zimbabwe's first citizen. But who is Robert Mugabe? Our reporter, Henry Okrut, gives us the answer in this report.
Ideologically known as an African nationalist, during the 1970s and 1980s, he identified himself as a Marxist, though after 1990s, he proclaimed himself as a socialist. Born on 21st February 1924, Robert Mugabe is a Zimbabwean revolutionary and politician who has been president of Zimbabwe since 1987. He had previously led the country as prime minister from 1980 to 1987 after chairing the Zimbabwe African National Union ZANU Group from 1975 to 1980. He would lead its successor political party, the ZANU Patriotic Front, popularly known as ZANU-PF, from 1980.
Our concern should be to try and create some deep sense of assurance on the part of the whites as a whole. And of course, it is not just Mrs. Smith who can do that.
General Walls?
There are other people who can represent the whites as well. But we are discussing these matters, and I think we will reach some point of agreement with those who represent the white community.
Hailing from a poor Shona family, he attended Kutama College and the University of Fort Hare before working as a school teacher. He was angered that Southern Rhodesia was a British colony governed by a white elite, prompting him to embrace Marxism. Here, he joined African nationalist protests, calling for an independent black-led state.
We would want to see them live in this country, free from any restrictions, free from any victimization. To us, we cannot practice racialism in reverse. We just cannot do it in principle.
It is after making anti-government comments that he was convicted of sedition and imprisoned for 10 years. Upon release, he fled to Mozambique, where he established his leadership of ZANU, overseeing its role in the Rhodesian Bush War that fought the white minority government. He took part in peace negotiations brokered by the United Kingdom, resulting in the Lancaster House Agreement that dismantled white minority rule. This consequently led to the 1980 general election, which led him and his ZANU-PF to victory becoming Prime Minister of the newly renamed Zimbabwe.
I was lucky in 1980 I had to go to witness the independence of Zimbabwe. In 1980 I went. Since then I've not been there. Oh, it was good. People were wild, happy, because they never expected that one day they can be free.
Having dominated Zimbabwe's politics for nearly 4 decades, he has been praised as a hero of the African liberation who freed Zimbabwe from British colonialism. However, he has been ridiculed as a dictator responsible for economic mismanagement and widespread corruption, whose regime has perpetrated anti-white racial discrimination, human rights abuses, suppression of political critics, and crimes against humanity have also been alleged against him. But his stand against neocolonialism has silenced the whites, making him a darling of many Zimbabweans.
The current system is inherently structured to enrich a few and impoverish the many. It cannot therefore deliver on a key aspiration and watchword objective of the 2030 agenda, that of leaving no one behind.
As uncertain as it may be hopeful, Robert Mugabe's resignation as President of Zimbabwe could usher in a new era for the country after many years.
Kwakauya maripots acho ari silly. Hapana chakabwetwa nakasukwere. Kasukwere anoshandira musangano.
His resignation follows his refusal to leave office during an 8-day crisis that began when the military took over last week.
I have no good words for that grace, though my daughter's called Grace too.
It is lamented that he was unwilling to recognize that after so many years of political mastery, he has lost control of the country.
A letter from the President, State House, Harare, Zimbabwe, 21st November 2017.
It is said he finally conceded to political pressure hours after Parliament launched proceedings to impeach him.
It is worth reminding each other that the world today, by its very interconnectedness, demands more, not less, solidarity, more, not less, cooperation and dialogue, more, not less, multilateralism.
What began as a palace coup later developed into a popular revolt, leading to Mugabe's resignation. The answer to the question of what becomes of him could be just a matter of time. Henry Okrut, UBC.
Henry Okrut giving us the answer to who exactly Robert Mugabe is, and of course that is ex-president of Zimbabwe. News Tonight takes a short break, but we'll return with much more. Do stay with us. Welcome back from that short break, and this is News Tonight, and a warm welcome to those of you just joining us. Now, moving on, Uganda Women's Parliamentary Association, WOPA, alongside other women activists, is demanding for the resurrection of the Sexual Offences Bill and the Marriage and Divorce Bill that have been in Parliament's shelves for over 10 years. Now, while launching the 16 Days of Activism campaign, WOPA chairperson Honorable Monica Moding said passing the bill will help curb on increased domestic and gender-based violence levels in the country.
Reports have continuously indicated increasing rates of domestic violence against women and girls in Uganda, recently ranking Uganda as the 16th among the 25th countries, with 16% of girls married off before 15 years.
This is a big challenge in our country. Of course, the social policies, the social norms also prevent the girls from returning to school. Sexual harassment and rape, as well as defilement.
In the 16 Days Activism campaign, efforts to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education will be the focus. According to Monica Amoding, the chairperson, Uganda Women's Parliamentary Association.
To ask you to speak out against the marginalization of women and girls in policies and programs.
This year's theme, From Peace in the Home to Peace in the Nation, aims at retaining girls in school by highlighting structural discrimination of girls in the education sector, home setting, and government.
We need to see how policy, how government comes out in a very strong way to address this crime. At one time, you could actually understand this as structural violence.
The 2011 Uganda Demographic and Health Survey shows that 75% of girls are sexually abused during childhood. 59.6% of girls from the age of 15 have at a time experienced physical violence, and 39% of women experienced sexual violence, compared to 11% of men. Despite the presence of laws on domestic and gender-based violence, laxity in implementing them has left culprits walking freely.
We have over the years noted were lacking, such as that stringent punishment, particularly of teachers, because we've noted they are the biggest defilers, also parents and guardians.
Women activists commend interventions like male engagement for the safety of women and girls, investigating all cases of violence against women and girls.
There is another level of sexual violence in this country. If you have money, you can get away with it. Where are the institutions in this country to talk about that, or to bring to book these so-called untouchables?
The International Campaign Against Violence on Women and Girls is an annual campaign that focuses on advocating against gender-based violence. Susan Naonga reporting.
Now let's have a look at someone who really needs help, and we're talking about none other than 5-year-old Kimberly Adela, who has a hearing impairment, a condition that can be reversed if she is operated on and gets a cochlea implanted. Now in this regard, Adelia's parents are looking for about 100 million shillings to enable their child gain hearing and speech senses. With much on that, here is our reporter, Dorcas Kimalo.
This morning, baby Kimberly Adela, led by her mother Kamugabo Ima, paid us a visit at Broadcast House along Nile Avenue. I later discovered the reason for their visit on interacting with them.
I've come here so that people can help me to raise money for her operation, that is cochlear implant, that has to be done so that she can be able to hear and develop speech.
Ima Kamugabo says she gave birth to a normal baby like any other mother.
I gave a normal birth and she was in good conditions, because like after delivering today, the next day we were discharged from the hospital.
However, baby Kimberly later suffered from an ear infection which her mother did not know would cost the child her hearing sense. Bothered with the fact that her baby was taking long to start talking, Ima says she visited different hospitals within the country that all advised her to buy a hearing aid.
They did the tests. They found that Kimberly is suffering from profound hearing loss. So she doesn't hear very well, and that can't allow her to develop speech.
However, early this year, on the advice of a friend, Ima decided to visit Nairobi Audiology Center, where she was advised to consider an operation for a cochlear implant.
Because now she wears the hearing aids, that what she will benefit from will be that cochlear implant. So the doctors, they are the ones that recommended that we need to go for that implant.
It is for this reason, therefore, that this desperate mother of one is calling on all well-wishers to give a helping hand to enable baby Kimberly get her hearing sense.
Ugandans and people from abroad, I kindly invite you for this dinner. We have organized a fundraising dinner at Emerald Hotel on 26th November 2017, which will start at 3 p.m.
Despite her condition, Kimberly is currently studying in middle class, and her mother says the performance is promising.
Even the teacher tells me she's very active, she knows what to do, she wants to learn new things. Yeah, the problem is only speech.
Knowing that this condition can be reversed, Ima has a message for those she hopes can help her child, especially Chadondo East Member of Parliament, Honorable Chagulanyi Sentamu Robert, aka Bobby Wine.
Honestly, I've seen you've helped so many people and you like children so much. You and your wife, I really call upon you so that you come and be part of this fundraising. And if you can also come alongside with your friends or fellow MPs so that we see Kimberly here.
The fundraising dinner, slated for 26th November at Emerald Hotel in Kampala, intends to raise the required money before 18th December, when a specialist from the US will visit the country to carry out surgeries on a number of patients.
If we raise money 2 weeks before 18th December, that's when the doctor is coming, we shall be lucky enough that we do that operation from here in Uganda. Yeah, if we fail, we shall have to travel to Nairobi.
Well wishers can fund little Kimberly using these mobile money numbers 0781 530615 or 0701 485306. They may alternatively deposit on Centenary Bank account number 3200364142, all in the names of Kamugabo Ima, Adele Kimberly's mother. Dokas Kimono, UBC News.
Yes, and that is the plight of 5-year-old Kimberly Adela, who needs about 100 million shillings in order for her to have a cochlea implanted in her ears. And of course, 100 million is needed for that. Now, still on news pertaining to the health sector, and we specifically look at distribution of mosquito nets. And officials from the malaria control program of the Ministry of Health have described the distribution of treated mosquito nets in the country as a success, saying over 30 million people have so far benefited. Now, this has been disclosed at a media conference on developments in fighting malaria, as well as dates for distribution of the treated mosquito nets in Wakiso and Kampala districts.
Malaria is cited among the killer diseases in sub-Saharan Africa, especially for children below 5 years. In Uganda, Ministry of Health, in partnership with a number of stakeholders, created the Malaria Control Unit that has since February distributed mosquito nets as a measure to reduce malaria prevalence in the country.
Average is defined as 2 people, 1 net. So if you are alone in the house, you will get 1 net. If you are 2, you will get 1. If you are 3, you will get 2, because there cannot be half person. And then it complements other efforts of accessing nets, because we have a total market approach. We are going to continue giving nets to antenatal clinics for our pregnant mothers, to child health clinics, and then we are starting one in schools, and also the private sector social marketing, which we have a framework for subsidizing.
While addressing the media in Kampala, Dr. Opigo Jim said the distribution program had been a success. Opigo says the program for the distribution of mosquito nets will need everyone to register with village councils that will later supply the nets at people's respective polling centers. Records indicate that since February, over 30 million people have benefited from the mosquito net distribution project under the malaria control program of the Ministry of Health. Banonya Cosmos reporting in Kampala.
Now, police have confirmed arresting directors and editors of a local tabloid, The Red Pepper. Now, the spokesman of the Uganda Police Force, Emilian Kaima, says the arrest of the 8 relates to a publication that allegedly intended to incite violence.
5 directors and 3 editors of local tabloid The Red Pepper are being held in police cells at infamous detention facility in Nalufenya, Jinja. Police spokesperson Emilian Kaima confirms the arrests, which were executed by security on Tuesday evening. The paper publications, whose headquarters in Namamve industrial area in Mukono are cordoned off, will not carry out any publication till
to facilitate this investigation will be withdrawn from the suspects. But the beauty of it is these are treated as exhibits. They are well marked, they are well protected. And at the right time, either we take them to court for purposes of prosecution or return them to the police.
On the same matter, a group of members of parliament have condemned the arrest and siege of the publications office.
We condemn in the strongest terms possible. This country cannot be democratic. This country cannot be free when those who just carry the news are being arrested.
Lately, several media practitioners have either been arrested, others released on police bond or bail, whereas some outlets have been threatened with closure. Report compiled by Jackson Onyango and Gloria Gwitabenji.
We'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll look at business news. Stay with us. Welcome back, and this is News Tonight here on UBC TV. My name is Edward Rukidi Kijanangoma. Let's talk business now, and the exploration of oil and gas resources in Uganda is turning out to resemble a gold rush that occurred in the past in South Africa. A delegation from the United Kingdom led by Lord Popat of Harrow, the envoy to Uganda and Rwanda, has spent close to a week in Uganda studying business opportunities in different sectors.
Recently, government reignited the exploitation and exploration of oil and gas resources embedded in the Alberta in Graben. The move has since made Kampala a business destination for a number of investors from Asia and Europe, among other global investors seeking a fortune in the upcoming lucrative oil mining business.
It shows some goodwill from our end. We mean business. We want to do more with the Uganda, and we want both countries to prosper simultaneously.
The delegation from the United Kingdom has followed other delegations from China and United Arab Emirates, who are exploring opportunities in the sectors like oil and gas, as well as health.
The start was about 15 to 20 billion being used in the oil and gas sector here, broader infrastructure. And I think the aspiration, if you could spend 5 billion of that in terms of Ugandan produce and goods and benefiting Uganda, that would be a good thing.
Oil and gas is something we were the first people in this country to have oil. The UK quoted the FTSE 100 company came here, and we made a start. We will make sure we finish it. Once we got this delegation who are on the supply chain of making things happen, and your company will be the supply chain to them for some of these things where we do the pipelines and refinery and all that.
Lord Popat of Harrow led the delegation, and they toured Roofing's rolling mills in Namamve, Kampala. He says they are seeking for potential local partners to mutually link with in the exploration of oil resources in Uganda.
In principle, the Ugandan government to finance a new international airport in Kampala, and that finance is £310 million. It's the biggest loan that we've given to Uganda, but the largest loan we've given to Africa. So it shows some goodwill from our end. We mean business. We want to do more with the Uganda, and we want both countries to prosper.
As far as supplies are concerned, we are now utilizing about 55% of our capacity that we've installed. That includes the current projects we are serving, as well as the local market and exporting. So we are ready for more capacity.
We do not compromise at all with our quality, with our ethics. We do not compromise. And I think that has been our strength to grow very fast. The companies
Ugandans and local companies have been advised to participate in the exploration of oil if they are to benefit from the project that their government has immensely invested in. David Matovu in Kampala.
Welcome back, and now moving further afield. A CNN report about the sale of African migrants as slaves in Libya has incited outrage, attracting condemnation by the African Union and also instigating an official investigation. Now, the report broadcast a week ago showed black migrants being sold as slaves for just $400. Samuel Galandi reports.
Last week, CNN broadcast a report showing how African migrants are sold off as slaves at a market in Libya. The 6-minute news feature captured auctioneers trading the migrants for as low as $400.
Big strong boys for farm work, he says. 400. 700.
This has attracted the condemnation from the African Union. Musa Faki Mahamat, the chairman of the African Union Commission and the foreign minister of Chad, has issued a statement calling the auctions despicable. He has urged the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to assist the Libyan authorities with the investigation that they have opened in response to CNN's report. The Guardian reported in April this year that West African migrants were being sold in modern-day slave markets in Libya based on information from the International Organization for Migration, a UN agency. The International Organization for Migration estimates that there are 700,000 to 1 million migrants in Libya, and more than 2,000 have died at sea this year. The CNN report, published last Wednesday, detailed the horrors that African migrants experience while trying to reach Europe in search of a better life. It included video footage of a slave auction captured last month outside Tripoli, where about a dozen migrants were sold as slaves in a matter of minutes, an auction, one of many, according to CNN.
Welcome back. Let's have a look now at sports news, and we begin with chess, where the sports future of youngster Ashraf Nyamutale hangs in the balance, given limited funds to facilitate his travel to Egypt to represent Uganda at the Africa Chess Youth Championship. But with the tournament still about 8 days away, Nyamutale hopes well-wishers will rescue him. We have more in this report.
Trends of the chess sport in Uganda show that players that shine early tend to become future world beaters. From Arthur Segwanyi, Harold Wanyama and the Kauma family members, most players that shone through the ranks later in life acquired key chess status like international masters. But sadly for 11-year-old Ashraf Nyamutale, his dream is about to die even before he starts life as a serious chess player. The Luanda primary school pupil is a national champion at under-12 level and rightly earns his place on Uganda's team for the upcoming Africa Youth Chess Championship in Egypt. But as it stands, he is likely to miss out owing to lack of funds at the Chess Federation, and coming from a humble background doesn't help matters. He thus appeals to well-wishers to aid him with a promise of flying Uganda's flag high.
I would like to request you, some people who like sports, to sponsor me participate in this tournament, because those people who are going to qualify, I beat them. I believe I'm number one because all of the players whom are going in my category, I can beat them. Like when we participated in the national juniors, I won the under-12 trophy, and I won all the maximum points, which were 8, and I won the 2 players whom were from an international tournament in Zimbabwe, which was called the African Schools Chess Championships.
Nyamutale's abilities are confirmed by his coach Augustine Bule, who in fact targets government to rescue the only player out of UPE school to earn the right to play at such a stage.
This game has not been heard of in schools like this. We make an appeal to the Minister of Education to come on board and support such young talent. We've had it all, that students from private schools excel in all these other sports, but now this is our own. A student from a government-aided school, a shining star, failing to represent Uganda on so many other occasions. And yet, those that he has beaten in tournaments have gone on to represent the country.
The Africa Youth Chess Championship starts on 2nd December, with Uganda likely to send about 14 players. John Banza, Sentamo, reporting.
Football news now, and the under-20 national team has kick-started training at Nambole National Stadium in preparation for the COSAFA tournament that begins early December. The invitational tournament will help national coaches test the youngsters ahead of the CHAN tournament.
The national under-20 team, the Hippos, is into a non-residential camp ahead of the COSAFA Invitational Tournament to be held on December 6th in Zambia. Uganda will compete as a guest team and share the same group with host Zambia, Swaziland and Malawi. KCCA's Shaban Mohammed, Vipers' Frank Tumwesije, Shafiq Kajimu among others are part of the squad. National team coach Matia Lule said the team will start official training on the 27th of November when all the players summoned for national duty will have arrived in the camp.
It's a big chance to play in such a big tournament like this. And I think, being that Uganda we are trying to put a new chapter or to put a development, it's a very big achievement. With experience, we are the people to give them experience, because the moment they go in the tournament, that's where they gain experience from. And it's good with me to work with such a talent. But there is a challenge, a very big challenge, being that for a team like Zambia, their team has been there always. If you remember, those are the projects I think we played against when we were in the development of U17 last time. So they've been maintaining it. But that one, I know, to me, we have to work hand in hand to see that we put our boys on that level. And I think we can.
And in the other news, the finals of the University Football League gets underway at Mandela National Stadium this weekend when two-time champion Makerere Business School take on 2015 runners-up Uganda Matters University Nkozi. Mobs will be looking at adding a third tie to having won the competition twice in a consecutive championship. Nkozi University will be out to avoid another embarrassment, having played in the finals in 2015 only to lose to Mobs 4-1. Ngabo Amon, reporting for UBS TV.
And that's all we had time for. Thanks for keeping us company. I'm Edward Rukidi Kijanangoma, wishing you a good night.